every year ends the same. Most people look back, but never look in. That's how they miss the tax breaks, the deductions, the habits that secretly cost them thousands. But then there are the few who stop, reflect, and run a real wealth health check. And that moment of honesty changes their entire next year. This is the Fi Guys. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Fi Guys podcast, the show where we dive deep into the world of financial independence and personal finance. Whether you're just starting out on your journey or well on your way to financial freedom, we've got the insights and strategies you need to achieve your financial goals.
In each episode, we'll provide actionable tips and real-life success stories to inspire and guide you on your path to financial independence. So, grab your notepad and get ready to transform your financial future with the Fi Guys podcast. Let's get started. The Fi Guys is a podcast dedicated to providing general information and insights on a wide range of wealth-related topics. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and guests and do not constitute personalized financial advice.
The content provided in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It should not be considered a substitute for professional financial advice. Your financial situation and goals are unique, and the information provided here may not be applicable or suitable for your specific circumstances.
We, the host and the guests of the Fi Guys, are not acting as your financial advisor. We are not aware of your individual financial situations, risk tolerance, or investment objectives. Any decisions or actions you take based on the information provided on this podcast are your own and made at your own risk. I may be a financial advisor, but I am not your financial advisor. And now that the lawyers are happy, let's get started.
When you think about the end of the year, do you feel proud about how far you've come financially? Or are you just exhausted and wondering where all your money and your time actually went? We've all had that moment in December where we open up our bank apps and think, how did I spend this much money? Or how do I feel so behind? And most people just wait until January to deal with it. But here's the truth. The end of the year isn't a pause button. It's your biggest opportunity to course correct and finish the year strong instead of just saying, I'll start over next year. This episode isn't about guilt or budgets that you're not going to follow. It's about clarity, real moves you can make before December 31st so you can actually feel in control heading into 2026. We're breaking down year-end planning in a way that finally makes sense. Mindset, taxes, investments, and how to make peace with where you are right now. With that intro, Dominic, what do you want to talk about starting out as we get into the end of the year?
Please, I don't want to have to talk about taxes. I just want to talk about course correcting. I love the idea that you talked about right there on this is the moment where we can kind of course correct and catch things before it's kind of too late and we enter the new year. Very important because oftentimes I know a lot of us let certain things slip, right? We're human, we're normal. Nobody wants to deal with this, right? Unless you're Chris, who, the all-knowing Chris, we love Chris.
I don't know about that. I'm not that perfect.
Well, to me, you are. To me, you're A1. I know we have a lot of stuff planned for today. So, where do you find is the best place to start? Because a lot of people are coming in. They're just, the way I see it is they've got like a box of like all of their like bills and they're like into shell. It's like, Chris, where do we start? And it just falls everywhere. So where would you recommend we start on this journey today, Chris?
Well, I think here at the Fi Guys, we're really big on mindset. So I say we start in the beginning. We start at the mindset for year-end planning. Because just like we talked about a second ago, I think too many people that they end up coming towards that end of the year and it's time to start it. And what do we all do? I always say, I'll put it off and I'll make future me deal with it. Like future me, that person is screwed because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to enjoy my holidays. But in truth, like you're going to look back on yourself. So you want to be a good ancestor or a good even future past you. So you can look back and be like, oh, thanks for doing that past me that I don't have to deal with it right now. So let's start with why the year-end reflection matters more than ever, especially now in 2025. With the new tax credits, there's new tax rules. Your awareness equals your opportunity. What you don't know can cost you thousands in missed deductions, especially now that we have the big, beautiful bill. Things have changed. So you just can't put it off and say, oh, it's okay, I'll deal with it later. Because dealing with it after December 31st can cost you thousands of dollars in lost credits. So I want you to also be ready to call yourself out. Instead of just being financially avoidant, we really need to get ready to prepare, ready to make changes and see what it is that I did in this past year and what it is that I want to change in the next year. And to all of our listeners, this isn't about guilt, it's about clarity. Too many people, they go into anything when it comes to finances with shame of like, oh, I'm a bad person because I did X, Y, or Z. I'm a bad person because I overspent or I underspent. If you underspend, good for you. But too many people are going through life upset and feeling like they did the wrong thing. I want you to have reflection over perfection. Too many people are looking for, if I did anything wrong, then that's a feeling on me that I'm a bad person, but that's not the way it actually works. So I want you to try to do this. Try what we call here the FI guys, a wealth health check. Just like you go to the doctors, you do little checkups, get your blood drawn. It's the exact same thing here. If you get your blood drawn, you find out that something is off. You don't sit there and go, oh, I'm a bad person because my cholesterol is a little too high. No, you take that information and you go back and you try to change it. It's the exact same thing with this year-end check. Did your money align with the values that you had this year? Do you even know what your values are this year? What habits do I need to change before walking into 2026 so that I don't repeat the exact same patterns over and over and over again? Before we get into segment 2, what do you think, Dom?
Wow. I mean, that is a great way to start it out, a great way to frame it, and a great way to kind of get right into that. I love what you said, reflection over perfection. We're not shooting for perfection here. And I think that's just a stress relief, right? That I felt when you said it, I felt like, wow, my shoulders went down, a weight's lifted off my shoulders. I love that. Reflection over perfection. I might have to make that into a little wallpaper or a little greeting card or something. That's pretty solid. Um, I think you couldn't be more right, Chris. Not to glaze, but I think you're 100% right. Um, the habits that we kind of start with, coming into this new year, they're going to carry throughout the year unless we do something major and drastic. Usually, I mean, in your experience, I would probably assume, right, that most people, well, whatever habits they have, they're going to carry over, right? Because habits are very, very difficult to break. And a lot of them come with a bunch of different challenges, whether that be emotional or physical challenges to overcome. But with this wealth health check, trademark?
Sure. Five Guys trademark. We just did
Five
that.
guys trademark, five guys trademark. Okay. With this wealth health checklist, I think it's absolutely brilliant though, because like you said, we do go to the doctor every year. We should go to the doctor every year. Have you been to the doctor yet, guys? Go to the doctor. Get your yearly checkup. We don't know what's going on. They might have spiked the turkey. No, I think it is very important to um, get all the information you have on what you did this year and if you did it right this year, right? And there's no right or wrong, but there's a best and a better way to do it, right? And there's a way that kind of suits your lifestyle a little bit better, right? How Chris spends his money is a lot different than how I spend my money. We're different people, different goals, right? So I'm excited about this. I'm excited to kind of get back into it. I'm looking forward to the taxes, but you always make taxes sound so much fun and so exciting. So I'm excited because you're about the only person that can make taxes bearable. So let's continue on with this big, beautiful bill you keep mentioning.
Yeah, let's go ahead and try to make taxes as fun as possible. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit this pretty quick. So, here in segment 2, I do want to talk about taxes, deductions, and the big, beautiful bill because things have changed here in 2025. It's not the same that it always is because it's always changing. It never is the same as it always is. But here are the new 2025/2026 opportunities that you need to know about with the changes here in America of the big, beautiful bill. The 2017 individual tax rates remain in place. So there's no sudden jumps into next year. Overtime income is now deductible and it's now roughly up to $12,500. So that's huge if you're a W-2 employee putting in long hours. So be aware of that kind of stuff. If you don't know what that means, I definitely recommend hiring a CPA if anything is more extreme than you just work a normal W-2 job and have some investment opportunities somewhere. Tip incomes are now deductible up to around $25,000 through 2028. So that's massive for people in the service-based or blue-collar work. There are also SALT deduction cap increases from $10,000 to $40,000 for income under $500,000. So that means that itemizing might finally make sense again. And Dom, I noticed that when I said the word salt, you're like, I don't know what he's saying.
There's no
So
way
just
he's talking about actual salt. It's impossible, right?
yeah. So just a quick salt refresher. Salt actually means state and local tax. SALT. So state income tax, local income tax, property taxes, or sales tax if you choose that option. You can actually deduct that from your federal, which is something that's very helpful for people that are in higher end areas like California, New York, Hawaii.
Yeah.
Um, Child tax credits have increased from $2,000 to $2,200 per year. So nothing huge, but there's a little bit. Um, this is a big one. So clean energy and home improvement credits are going to be phasing out after 2026. So you have a year, if that's something you've been wanting to think about, to get that stuff done for your taxes. And then there's some of the bigger things that come in when it comes to the FI guys. This is what we normally talk about. Normally, we don't talk about all the other credits because, well, that's for your CPA. But I do want to make sure that in case you know about it, that way you can tell your CPA, hey, are we taking these deductions? But for the FI guys, there's things you need to do. You need to make sure that you get these done before December 31st. And that might be max out your retirement accounts. That means your 401k, your IRA, your SEP, your HSA. I do also want to make sure that I note that you can still contribute to your IRAs up till the tax filing deadline. So if you are trying to prioritize, do I do my 401k or my HSA or my IRA? You still have more time on the IRA. So maybe put that on the back burner and try to get more money into that 401k if that's something that you can do that year to save a little bit more money. We can also harvest investment losses. Ideally, if you're listening to the FI guys and you invest the way that we do, you're not selling too often. But if you did have a selling opportunity where you lost some money, that's wonderful. Dominic, remind me to tell you the story about the person that I know who does like amazing tax loss harvesting, who is a financial advisor. It's a
You
funny
know, I
story.
think I remember you saying a story last year about this exact thing, and it was I don't know if it's gonna be the same story, but it's oh man, it was not the move, if I remember correctly. And for those who don't know, like Chris was saying, right? Say you take a loss on a stock, you can kind of write off that stock against your total taxable income, correct?
Yep.
Making sure. I'm sure
Yeah,
about it.
well, since we're here, before I go on to the next ones, yeah, that's
Okay.
basically it. I once met a financial advisor, and his whole pitch that he would go and talk to people on, where he has this amazing tax loss harvesting strategy where he makes up so much money by being able to do that. And he's talking to these group of investors and or not investors, but like potential clients, and they didn't know what he was talking about, and they're like, "Wow, that sounds really good. Like I like being able to save money on taxes." And he was just selling that I will save you a lot of money on taxes because of tax loss harvesting. And then I asked him later on, I'm like, well, how much money are you losing for these people? Or how much money are you gaining for them? And he was like, oh, I don't want to talk about how my investment portfolios actually do, but think about how much money you're going to save on taxes. So it's really like, hey, in order for me to save $10 in taxes, I'm going to spend thousands of dollars just like burning it in a
Oh
wood
boy.
chipper so that I can be sure that I save $10 on taxes.
That's terrible. That's horrible.
It really
This
was.
guy's this guy's still roaming free. Lock that man up. He's not a good investor. Yeah, that's so stupid. That is just blatantly idiotic. Um, no, so basically the kind of the rule of thumb, right, Chris, is it's always better to make more money.
Yes.
It's very rare that the best strategy is to lose money on purpose.
And that's
Um,
because we have a progressive tax system. And then if
yeah.
you don't know what that means, go back listen to the FI crash course, like start to understand that stuff. But that's the reason we bring these things up and we try to introduce things because there are a lot of us call finance just a language. And so many people don't understand the language. So they hear these fancy words like tax loss harvesting. They're like, oh, that sounds cool. Well, they don't know what that actually means. Oh, I mean, I had to lose somewhere else to gain a little bit over here. You don't want to when I go and I try to get something on sale or I try to feel like I'm getting a deal, I try to find something that's normally a dollar and now they're selling it for 50 cents. I
Mhm.
don't try going into a place and say, hey, this is normally a dollar. Can I give you $2 for it? All right. So, a few other things we need to do before the end of the year. Make any charitable gifts or donor advised fund contributions before December 31st. And then we also want to adjust our withholdings or estimated tax to reflect our new deductions for 2026. You can do that in 2026, but it does make it easier if you just do it right now for 2026. Because right now, to our listeners, you should be able to make those in your tax HR software. So this is the big thing that I want you to know about the big, beautiful bill. The new bill didn't change politics. It just changed your personal playbook for your finances. Did I make taxes okay?
So much better, so bearable, very bearable. It was very enjoyable actually. I like blinked and I was like, oh, it's over. I feel like I just got a shot or something. It's like, did it hurt? It's like, it's fine. We talked about taxes. It's okay. It's gonna be numb for a while, but it's fine. I guess this is kind of why you need, honestly, an Avengers level team to run through your money, right? For like a CPA or an accountant or a tax guy. A lot of the stuff it's kind of in the weeds. It's a little bit advanced. So is that something that everybody should have, Chris, or is this like, if you make over 60 or 100,000, you should have a CPA or a tax guy or.
The way I've always come down on when you need a CPA or not. If
Mhm.
you are single or married, and you don't own a house,
Okay.
you have a W-2 job. You and your spouse both have W-2 jobs. Um, maybe you have like one investment portfolio somewhere, like at a Schwab or a Vanguard, that has an IRA or something in that, and you have a 401k. You can most likely do it on your own. The moment you start saying, I want to do donor advised funds, I want to get all of the deductions, I want to have that, and I want to also make charitable donations. We have a house or we have our rental property. That's when you're going to need all these things. If you want a business, you want a CPA. Um, Even if it's just like side hustle stuff, you typically want to get a CPA at that point to make sure you're protecting yourself. But most people can deal with their taxes on their own. But it's all going to depend on the complexity and do you know what you're actually doing? Because the messed up thing about IRS is that they don't know what it is that you owe them, but they will tell you what you owe them. And then you have to prove to them why you don't owe that. We have another discussion about like, is there even a chance of most people getting audited anymore now that the IRS has been completely gutted? Most likely not, but that's still not a game that we're going to say on the Fi Guys. Yeah, let's go ahead and see how long we can play this game for.
No, that's once again, that is a pretty stupid strategy, right? That is not a good move. Not a good move. It's always best to follow the letter of the law. If you're gonna, if you, listen, it's just better to make more money than to try and squeeze a little bit out of the old tax man. It's just make more money is always the goal. It seems like.
Yeah, it's a good strategy. We can only cut so much, but there is an infinite of how much you can actually make.
Yeah.
So in segment 3, I want to talk about portfolio and investment checkups. Now, if you've listened to the Fi Guys before, we are very big into just dollar cost averaging, into a broad market index and just kind of leaving it alone, especially because the audience that we tailor our message towards are Gen Y, are millennials, are people that are younger and have time horizons to wait out the volatility that is most likely going to be here in the next year or two and just let it go. Focus on living your life, focus on being there with your spouse, your kids, your friends, be there and just keep making money and keep on throwing that money into the market regardless of whatever it's doing. But there are people who don't listen to that and want to do their own thing, and that's totally cool. It all works. It all works as long as you do it long enough. So compare your portfolio performance to your actual goals. And if that means that we need to rebalance now to protect ourselves from our future selves with 2026 volatility, we need to do that now. Don't wait and say, oh, it's okay. I'll just change it once the market goes down. Then I know what's going to happen, because no one knows what's going to happen until after it's passed. I know you had a thought, Dominic.
And when you say rebalance, could you kind of explain just a quick briefly? Because I feel like that might throw a few people off.
Yeah, of course. So rebalancing your portfolio, it's all going to depend on what it is that you've set up in the past and your investment philosophy. I know for me, I just buy the S&P 500 and I just keep on doing it. I don't have to rebalance anything. I just keep on doing it that way. But there are some people who say, hey, you know what I really like to have? I like to have 60% in stocks. I like to have 10% in cash. And then I like to have, I don't know, 10% in crypto and then 20% in bonds or whatever their strategy might be. Well, over time, those things get out of whack. And now your 60% portfolio of stocks has now become 90% of your net worth. And you're like, whoa, that's a lot of money in there. And now everything else is just 2%, 2%, 2%. So maybe what I need to do is sell some of my stocks and then reallocate it to different places so that I can feel more at peace. It's still the same amount of money that I'm just putting it in different places that I can feel a bit safer. And it's all about that sleep well at night test. Like, can I swan? Can I sleep well at night? If I can't, then my portfolio probably isn't right for me.
And that's the trouble of it all. That's the most difficult part about the investing, right? Especially if you're not used to investing. Oftentimes, you probably won't sleep well at night. You'll be thinking about your investment. You're like, I have a lot on the line here. But like you said, if it doesn't pass the swan test, well, then it's probably not the right investment for you.
Yeah, and that's where the understanding comes in, right? And that's the reason that we study these things. We try to understand our own psychology, our own philosophy on life. Because if you're sitting there focusing on it or hyper focusing on it, that's usually when people make the biggest mistakes. Another thing I want us to do as we check their portfolio and investment checkup is review your fees, um, your diversification, and your advisor alignment if you do have an advisor. If you're paying for management, make sure you're actually getting management. Too many people, they'll go to a financial advisor who sold them on something amazing like tax loss harvesting. And they're like, okay, cool. I'll pay you however much money you want because you sound smart. And at the end of the year, they look at their investment portfolio and they find out they're in 16 different versions of the S&P 500. And at the end of the year, they're paying 1.5 to 1% to be in 16 versions of the S&P 500 that are all doing the exact same thing, but the person doesn't know what they're looking at. They just see ticker symbols and they're like, well, it seems like he's doing, or they're doing something. But at the end of the day, all you're doing is paying someone a big fee. And I know 1% does not sound big, but over 20, 30 years, 1% is millions of dollars. Millions of dollars will be siphoned off. We're doing something that you could have done yourself had you just taken a second to understand it. So if you're going to pay for management fees, make sure you're actually getting managed. You should be getting more than the best stock picker.
Yeah.
Because if that's the case, you won't.
Because 1% over 30 years is 30%. So that is a very sizable chunk. So yeah, we definitely got to watch those numbers and keep track of those things.
Yeah. Um, so that's going to be the big thing when it comes to portfolios. There's really not a lot that you have to do here. I think that most people think they get so bogged down in that they forget there's all these other things that we can do. But a rebalance is really as simple as that. I mean, my rebalance every year is I go into my account, I look at it and I go, okay. And then I put it away.
Gotcha.
It's really as simple as that. But
Okay.
that's my strategy. My strategy is set it and get the hell out of the way and enjoy living my life, enjoy working on my businesses, doing the podcast, spending time with my animals. I don't like to sit there and dig into the weeds, but if you are that person that does, do it and move on to the other things because we have other things that we need to focus on at the end of 2025 to make sure that we set ourselves up for a beautiful 2026.
Well, that didn't feel too bad. I think the portfolio checkup is very, very, very necessary. I think all of these things that we're talking about today, there's none of them that we can kind of skip, right, Chris? We should really be doing every single one of them. Chris did put a lot of time, love, and effort into this list and really doing all the due diligence and research on it. So please, guys, please, please, please make sure to take action on the information you're working with today, right? So let's keep going. I'm excited. So we've already done a little bit of the mindset. We've already done a little bit of the tax planning. We already checked our portfolio, but I mean, what else could there be, Chris?
Yeah, so I think these two next sections are the most important ones after mindset. I think the mindset one is the most important one because without the mindset, you're not even going to do steps 2, 3, 4, 5, or anything. But the taxes and the investment and the investors or the investment ones, yeah, they're important. But if you don't get to it, most likely things will be fine. Like most likely things will keep flowing. Maybe you'll cost a few $1,000s, a few $100s in penalties or something that you could have optimized slightly more. But this is where the rubber really meets the road. Our cash flow, savings, and lifestyle review. You need to be able to run a money audit where you're brutally honest with yourself. You need to basically stand in front of the mirror naked with your own inadequacies and be okay with it. Don't go in the mirror. If you're someone who's trying to look better, you don't go in the mirror, you see yourself, you're like, oh, no, I'm doing great. Or you don't just avoid the mirror. You need to be able to see yourself and be like, all right, this is where I want to focus on. This is what I want to get better. You need to know, where did your money actually go this year? What new bills or lifestyle creep snuck in without me noticing? How was I unconscious this year? And how did my money just flow? You need to be able to do that. And hopefully you've been tracking your money. Hopefully you have some sort of a budget, to be able to know what has happened this past year. Because too many people go through their entire life basing how they're doing financially off of their checking account. They look at one number. Is there money in my checking account? If there is, I did good. If there isn't, then I did bad. But people can have money in their checking account, and they can have bills growing everywhere else around it. They can have debt in their credit cards, debt on a student loan, debt on their cars, debt on their house, and their checking account can remain stagnant. And they can be like, look at me, I'm doing really good. Where all around them, their net worth is decreasing and decreasing and decreasing because they're adding more and more. And that's what this money audit does. We don't need a lot of numbers. All you need to know is how much money you make, how much money you spend, how much money do we have to, how much money do we have in bills? Those numbers, and then how much money do we have in investments? Those four numbers tell you your net worth. We do a little bit of adding, a little bit of subtracting. It makes it very nice and easy so we can make plans moving forward. In addition to doing the money, oh, good. Do you have a,
I was just going to say, I know obviously this is a year in review, but how often should a person really be doing a money audit?
I say once a quarter. Me and my wife do it every month.
Okay.
But I think, yeah, I would say maybe once a month. It depends on the individual, though. Like, I know everyone hates that answer, that it
Yeah.
depends, but it really does. But that's the reason that here at the Fi Guys, we talk so much about systematizing it. If you systematize it and you get out of the way, you don't have to do anything. You can just let it play. But when it comes towards your cash flow and your savings and your lifestyle, you need to be conscious more often than not. It's usually the people that are unconscious that kind of just go through life meandering, hoping that it's all going to work out, end up in the worst places. I don't think there's many people that you see at the gym who are fit and everything who are like, hey, how did you end up here? And they're like, I don't know. I just woke up and I was in the gym working out. Like, you have to be conscious and make actual effort into things. It's the same thing with your finances. Too many people hope that someone else is going to come and save them. Somebody else is going to fix it for them in the future. But we say it all the time on the podcast to the point that it's like a meme. No one is coming to save you. You have to be your own hero. Next, I want to talk about emergency funds and liquidity checks. Right now, end of 2025, moving into 2026, we are economically in a very precarious position. The job market's not doing good. Interest rates, not doing good. America on a global stage, not doing good. Even if you're in different countries, relationships amongst other nations, not looking very good. This is the time to make sure that we have some money in reserve. Money in reserve, so in case things go bad, in case I lose my job, in case whatever, I can float for a little bit longer. For those of you who remember COVID, and hopefully you do, it was only a few years ago. Everyone can say, oh, it'll be fine, I'll deal with it when I get there, but we don't know what's around the corner. There were people who were locked in their houses for months without an ability to go out and make an income. And thankfully, the federal government of many nations stepped in and decided to make breaks to be able to help people to make it a little bit longer. But that's not always guaranteed. There has been, if you look in history, many times that we should have had a economic collapse, but we didn't, because we kicked the can down the road by printing more money over and over and over again. And we've played that playbook out now 3 times, and it's worked those 3 times. I don't know if we continue just to keep on running the exact same playbook until it's going to figure itself out. I kind of think of like a football game, right? And back in the day when I used to be a Chargers fan, because I'm from San Diego, we used to have this guy named Damian Thomason, and he was amazing. We would just run him up the middle every time, and he would make magic happen somehow. But over time, he got a little bit older, things changed, and you can't just keep on running the exact same play over and over and over again and expect magic to happen. At some point, the other side, whatever that other side is going to figure it out, and they're going to lock you down. And that's where we're starting to move towards. So we need to have another person Can we throw the ball? Can we do literally anything else when the one play that we know has worked? Because at some point it may not work anymore. And that's where our emergency fund comes in. It's that little bit of a lifeline so that other people can figure it out, so that we can figure it out. And then if you did use your emergency fund this year, which many people did, I know that a lot of people, they look at that emergency fund and they're like, okay, well, hey, look how much money I have. I can spend it on gifts. I can spend it on vacation. I can spend it on all these things and I'll replenish it later. Right now is that later. Right now is a time to say, okay, I made these things. I made these choices. Now I need to get it back to where I wanted to be so that I can sleep well at night.
And how long should an emergency fund truly last?
Again, it's going to depend, right?
I know, I know. Just want to give people a ballpark so they
Yeah.
don't think it's like a week or two. It's like, no, 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 it should be longer than a week or two.
Yeah, I think it depends, right? If you have kids, people that depend on you, if you're a single income, maybe it's like wife's at home or father's at home and the spouse is at work, I would say a year. Like you probably want to go a lot because income is now dependent on one person. The chances of one person getting like taken out by a job layoff or something is much higher than two people getting taken out. Um, Unless the two people are in the exact same industry working for the same company or something like that. So do you have people who are dependent on you? You have a job that is stable. You have skills that can get you a job very quickly or in an industry that can get you another job very quickly. People that are single, have the ability to maybe move back in with their parents, just getting started in their career. Yeah, you can probably flow with a month or a few months. But someone who has kids dependent on them, has parents that need to get taken care of, you're going to want a lot more. So it's all going to be person dependent. But in general, we say 3 to 6 months. That's a good goal, but that's
And
not the goal because that's quite a range.
And if you had an emergency fund, right, you wouldn't have it. Where would be? Is there like a place? It's like, oh, this is the go-to emergency fund area, right? Would you keep it in savings, or is that for some people too close, too dangerous, right? Because it's like, oh man, we have this money. Let's dip our grubby little paws into it. Let's go buy something, right? Or should it be somewhere where it's a little bit harder to take out? Like in some investments or a money market, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on you again. I know everyone
Yeah.
hates that answer, but I've done a few different ways and I've coached people to do different ways. So it depends on if are you the kind of person that I see money in my account, therefore I must spend money. If you're
Yeah.
that person, then yeah, you're going to want to get it out of there. The way that I've always done it before I met my wife was I just put it into a high yield savings account that was connected to my bank. So I could still see it in my bank statement. But the way my wife is, if she sees money, she needs to spend that money. Like that's just how she's built. So what we had to end up doing is now I take those high yield savings and I move it over to a brokerage account, a joint brokerage account that we have. And then I put
Mhm.
that into a money market account, a short term high yield savings account, just to be able to get a better return than it's sitting there. Don't have your money in cash. Don't put it under, I mean, you have some money in cash, but like you don't want to have a year's worth of cash sitting under your bed because if a fire happens, yeah, you're dealing
Yeah.
with a lot of issues, and now you just lost a year's worth of income. Um,
Yeah.
but I really like the brokerage account. I think that a brokerage account is a really good way to have money that is liquid. You could get it out within 24 hours of a bank transfer. Um, they're very efficient, and then you can invest it in a way that is pretty good. I mean, the money market accounts for all your financial institutions like Vanguard, Schwab, they pay better than most high yield savings accounts. So I think that brokerage accounts are actually better than high yield savings account. You don't get the FDIC insurance that you do with bank accounts, but brokerage are actually have higher insurance limits than banks do. Banks are
Hmm.
250,000, where brokerage accounts are like in the millions of dollars.
Oh, nice. Yeah, because I know for me, what I do, and this is not financial advice. In fact, this is entertainment. In fact, don't even listen to me. Anything finance, defer to Chris. I'm just like the squire here. But um, what I do, because me, I love simplifying things. I love making things as easy as humanly possible for me. My quote unquote emergency fund is my Acorns account, which I love because it takes like a certain amount of money out on every Wednesday, and then it rounds up all my purchases, and then it just invests it for me. And every now and again I'll check and I'll be like, oh, that's more than I thought it would be. Nice. Sweet. Nice. I gotta spend it now. But this is great. No, this is
Might I
that's how I do it. That's just
might
how
I
I do
ask,
it.
Tom? I think this is
Mhm.
really important for the listeners. So, how do you have your Acorns account invested? Like, what did you choose as your investment option?
So mine's kind of moderate, right? So it's not like super risky. It's not like the most risky, right? It's I believe it's like it's mostly stocks, and then the rest is just bonds.
Okay.
There's no like crypto in it or anything like that. Nothing too risky. Again, like it's not really the place to be risky, right? If if my if my "Oh crap, I need this now" is a risky area, that seems pretty stupid to me, right? That seems kind of dumb. Right? We have other areas to be risky with. We got a risky fund to be risky in, right? Stuff we can risk. It's allotted risk, right? But this is like my safer area. So it doesn't grow too much, but it grows enough to where it surprises me every time I open it. So
I want
um
you to still remember, and this to our listeners too, that a moderate fund is still quite aggressive.
yeah,
Like even a moderate fund is still quite aggressive. So that for most people, I would not recommend that as your emergency fund.
okay.
Yeah.
Should I change?
Hmm? We can
I
talk
guess
about
it's
that
up.
off the pod, but I mean, it depends on what you're doing with your other investments. Like you want to look at all of this holistically to be able to make the best determination. But I think a lot of people believe like, okay, well, this portfolio will be down over here, but this one will be okay because it's moderate. No, they're both going to be down. It's just like this one's down 40%, this one's down 35%. And now I'm going to be pulling money out of this fund that just took 35% hit. That's the reason I really like, short-term bonds or money market accounts where yes, you can lose money, but the likelihood of you losing money are very, very low. Your return, you're always going to sacrifice the reward of getting more with the risk of not losing anything. But like there's no solutions or only trade-offs when it comes to financial planning. That is one of the biggest things that people need to learn. There are
Yeah.
no solutions. There are only trade-offs. This is something that I think is very important for couples. If you have a partner, what one financial habit you want to improve together next year? I think too many people, they look at finance as like an individual game. But when you are in a partnership, when you have a couple, you are a team. You guys need to make sure that you guys are improving it one thing at a time. And I think too many people, when they think about financial planning, they're like, okay, how can we fix all of this right now? And I don't know about you, but I've moved a few times in my life and I've never walked in, like we have the truck undone and now all the boxes are sitting inside the front or in the garage. And I've not been like, all right, we have 10 minutes to furnish the entire house. What do? We all go, okay, let's go room by room. Let's go section by section. What's the most important section? Most important section is probably let's make sure our bedroom set up. Let's make sure the kitchen set up. It's the exact same thing with finances. What are the most important things for us in our place? If someone has a kid, yeah, maybe the baby's room is the most important thing first. I'm not going to set up my bedroom for the baby. You have to determine those things for yourself. But by focusing on one thing a year, you can make improvements. My wife and I, what we do every single year that we have our discussion, we write down on our yearly budget planner, on the next year's one that we track everything on, we write down our words. We write down, these are the things that we're going for. Financially, these are the things we're going for spiritually or personally. And this is how we're trying to improve ourselves. But that way you have it every single day. We look at those things to see like, what can we do to be a bit better? I think that's super important. And that's what really leads us into segment number 5, building a 2026 action plan. This is where I think the rubber really meets the road because too many people, they sit there and go, I'll deal with it later. Future me will deal with that. There are 3 moves we need to make before December 31st. Number 1, we need to lock in our deductions. That means our retirement accounts, our solar, our energy credits, whatever it is. Number 2, we need to review our insurance, our estate documents, and check our beneficiaries. Now, like, do you think I need to explain that stuff, or do you remember that, or do you think our
I
listeners?
think that's pretty self-explanatory, right? If you have a will or a trust, making sure that, hey, I'm still good with my son. He still deserves everything. He still should be a good beneficiary. Is that kind of what you're talking about, Chris?
Yeah, that's a big one. One thing that I do want to make sure is very clear when it comes to estate planning, because estate planning is a beast and it's very difficult. First off, estate planning just means what is left after I die. That's what an estate is. Everything that is left after an individual dies. if you have investment accounts and you have something called a TOD or a POD, where it's a transfer on death or a pay on death, that supersedes a trust. That supersedes a will. So I've had, unfortunately, clients die in the past or before they knew me who had an IRA that they put their ex-spouse on, and they never changed it years and years later. And then they passed away. And now Margaret, who I haven't spoken to in 20 years, just got $4 million. But, but
Nice.
now we have this trust that says that my new spouse should get the money or my kid should get the money. But the POD, the TOD that you put with your bank account, that you put with your brokerage account, with your IRAs, that supersedes a trust. It doesn't even go through the probate process. It just automatically flows once you're able to show a death certificate. So you need to be able to check those things. That's why I say once a year is a good place to take a look at it. And then the final
Absolutely.
thing is use flexible spending accounts or you lose them. If you remember from our insurance one, we talked all about the different accounts. There's a difference between an HSA and an FSA. An FSA is a flex spending account where you get money at the beginning of the year that you have to spend in the year or you lose it. So if you have money that you need to use in your flex savings account, I would recommend going to the IRS.com. I think it's FSA.gov or something like that. You can just Google it. There's a list of a bunch of different things you can purchase, even if it comes down to Band-Aids or a Whoop strap or a Peloton, I think is even on there. Like you can get things that if you want to buy it, go for it. But then there's 3 money habits that we need to start by January 1st. One is I want you to start holding a monthly money meeting. If you have a couple, probably just do it once a month. If you're an individual, do it with yourself. And I know it sounds funny to talk to yourself about it, but I think it's important to look these things over. We want to automate our savings and our investments. Get your dumb brain out of it and just let it flow the way it's supposed to. And number 3, I think it's good to track your net worth quarterly. Not to say, what did I do? How much money did I lose? But just to see, am I trending in the right direction? The reason I say quarterly is because I feel like when people do it weekly or monthly, the chances of them making big moves because of something outside of their control, like the stock market or the economy, are too high. But in general, if you're looking at it less often, it's most likely going to trend upwards. And most people are going to feel good about that. And the last thing is I want you to choose one intentional goal for this next year. And I want you to make it specific, measurable, and align with your values. An example might be something like increase my savings rate by 10% without lowering my quality of life. Setting up these little goals gives us directionality. I think that's what most people miss when they're actually planning out their next year, directionality. Everyone says, I just want it to be better. I want it to be good. Those words don't mean anything to anybody. You need to be able to say, this is this is what I want, and this is what I'm going to do to get there. And Don, before we come out with our closing thoughts, what do you think?
Well, I think from what I've learned from the podcast, right, it's always important to start with why and why you're setting those goals and why do you want to be financially free and why does it even matter to do any of this, right? And it's going to be different for all of us. It's going to be different for each of us, right? But finding those whys make it a lot easier, right? Then, well, yeah, I have to do taxes because taxes are coming and it's the end of year. So I got to do taxes. It's like, it shouldn't be a chore. It should be something that, well, it's just, it's something that we do. It's not so scary. It's not so tumultuous, as long as you follow the right steps. And honestly, it's never been easier to do an end of the year cleaning, an end of the year health wealth check with all the different tools and tips and tricks that we have this year. So it's actually never been easier. So I just want to encourage people as much as humanly possible to really take these actions, really, really, really take these actions. I please, I beg of you, don't put this off. Don't wait. It's better just to do it now. And then we can kind of continue on with the rest of our year, the rest of our couple months left, and well, I guess a
Yeah,
couple months
I
left.
I think I think this is an important thing, Dominic.
Mhm.
Every year that me and my wife, we have this longer conversation where we kind of sit down. We have our monthly check-ins, but we do this longer one. And I think at the end of the year, we always kind of dread it. It's kind of like going to the gym. Like you're kind of like, oh man, this is going to be tough. But when you're in it, it really is a lot easier than you think it is to talk about a lot. Like you'd be very surprised how much other things come up when you talk about money. How can we make our relationship better? How can we make our life better? How can we do all of these things? It's crazy how interconnected all of it is. because your money is one of the, love it or hate it, one of the biggest and most important things in people's lives. It facilitates your ability to do really anything in our society. So by having that align with you and your spouse or just within yourself, it is amazing. And it makes you feel so much better. And like money isn't this big, scary thing. Too many people, they just hold off. I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it when. I'll deal with it when. Whenever you hear that word, when, you're making an excuse. When is not going to come. When the only thing you have is right now. So to our listeners, like, we don't gain anything out of you doing this. Don't wait till January. Future you will thank you for acting right now. Small and consistent moves beats waiting for the perfect timing, because the perfect timing will never come. Year-end planning isn't about perfection. It's about progress. It's about reflection and momentum, taking that momentum and moving it forward over and over and over again. This week, our action step is to take one action from the episode and do it today. I'm not asking you to sit down with your spouse, and you shouldn't spring this on them. It shouldn't be like a surprise, but you should be able to log into your accounts and say like, hey, are my beneficiaries correct? You can do that today. It's really easy to do. You can look at your investments and be like, do these all still look right? Yeah, they still look good. You can do that in 5 minutes. Too many people think that this process needs to take them days, or they're doing it wrong. And then please be sure to share the podcast with one person. Bring someone along for this journey. Dominic, would you mind closing us out?
Absolutely, guys. Well, like Chris said, if you have a friend to go along with on this journey, send this episode to them, because everybody needs this year-end checklist. Everybody needs this year-end review. It's very, very, very important, right? With that being said, we're the Fi Guys. I'm Dom. He's Chris. We'll see you guys back here on Friday for the recap of Monday's episode, along with the viewer mailbag. And there's a few things we didn't chat about, so we're gonna get right into that on Friday. So I'm a little bit excited for Friday. Who's not? Who isn't excited for Friday? That's the real question. We need to find those people. But that being said, see you guys on Friday. Later, guys.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.